Hello. So I'm doing this video because everyone does sort of their top 5 lures and what have you, and I find it interesting that everyone's lures are different, which is great, but it also means that really bass can be caught on most anything, which I believe is true. Anyway, I'll start off with my surface lures that I like and I catch fish on. Savage Gear Panic Prey, the original version. There's been an upgraded version. Excellent lure, casts all right. You can walk the dog with it, twitch it, does what it should do, and catches plenty of fish. Panchenko 125, good lure, casts very well. I like it, it's okay. I think it's too expensive. I prefer this, the Savage Gear, to that, to be honest. And it's not just because these are like ridiculously overpriced. It's because they do exactly the same thing. There's very little difference in them. This isn't going to catch any more fish, in my opinion. And my favourite surface lure is this, the Head Spook Junior. Catch plenty of fish on it. It's very, very effective after dark. And it's one of the few surface lures that I've consistently caught sea trout on. I have caught sea trout on, I've caught sea trout on the Savage Gear Panic Prey, but I haven't caught many. This one, I've caught quite a lot of sea trout on. It's obviously something that they like. So that's really my #1 go-to surface lure. One thing I will say about surface lures, they seem a bit hit and miss. Fish don't always come up for surface lures, but they're always worth having. They can often show you where fish are. You'll get a lot of follows on surface lures, a lot of slaps, but maybe that doesn't turn into fish actually taking the lure. And in that case, when that happens, put something on, same size or smaller, that's going to sink a bit, and just twitch that back, and that will often result in a take rather than the take on the surface lure. Okay, next up are the lures that I use from beaches for distance, and that can be your line through salt, your line through sandy, kinetic line through, West End 360s, excellent lures, I really like these, and the Savage Gear Surf Seeker, another fantastic lure, works really well. And also with that, I would include a couple of spoons, a couple of small spoons, silvery coloured spoons. Toby, I don't even know what that is, but it catches fish. Nothing too fancy. And all of them lures I've just showed you, I would normally fish them from beaches, surf beaches, for example, beaches with sandy bottoms, places where you're likely to find sand eels. They can fish okay off rocks that lead onto sand, but I wouldn't fish any of them over just rocky bottoms or kelp or anything like that. There's better lures for that, in my opinion. But certainly over sand, storm beaches, they're a great thing. You can cast them out a long way. They flutter back in the water when you do a spin stop, and they do the job. They're absolutely fine for it. So next thing up is lures like plugs, for example. Ooh. There's a Strike Pro. The first ones I'm going to show you are ones that are quite shallow diving. So these dive to about 1 metre. Perfectly good lure. That's a Neil's Master Invincible. Dives to about 1.5 metres. Good for casting. And with all these lures, the thing I'm looking for is length to weight and how that equates to castability. And that's the main thing with these. I really, you know, as long as they cast all right, they wobble all right, then I really don't care who they're made by, how much they cost or what the pattern is. And I certainly wouldn't be spending a lot of money on any of them because they all do the same job. I haven't ever found any sort of plug lure that's better than any other. The main thing is, do they cast all right? Do they look all right in the water? If the answers to them is yes, you'll catch fish on them. But some of my favourites are, this is a Takanui lure from Japan, and it's great lure, catch plenty of bass on them. There's an interesting little lure. This comes from Alibaba or Temu, I can't remember. It casts really well. It's got quite a nice wobbling action in the water, and it attracts fish. You catch plenty of fish on them, and it's cheap as chips. I think they were like about £1 each, something like that. And they're good lures. They're all right. Nothing wrong with them at all. If you want to go a bit closer in, then I look no further than the Uzuri Pins Minnow and Crystal Minnow. Both of them are excellent fish catchers. As long as you've got light enough gear on, they cast fine, and they catch plenty of fish. They're some of my favourites, actually. Very, very good lures. And then we have some old favourites. The Rapala jointed J11 and the jointed J9. I always give them a swim every year. They catch fish really well. They're not great to cast, so you want, you know, these are more used for close-in fishing. And all of these lures I've showed you, they're all really ideal for fishing over rocks, over kelp, because they don't dive that deep. And as long as you know where you're fishing, you'll be absolutely fine. You know, you might lose the odd lure now and then, but everyone loses the odd lure now and then. But yeah, great, absolutely great lures. You want to cast a bit further, you got the Dex Long Shot, another excellent lure, not expensive, fishes well and catches plenty of fish. If you want to go a bit deeper, then this is a Halco lure, one that dives to about 2.5 meters. So if you know your bottom and know you can get away with 2.5 meters, and you need to go deeper, which isn't often actually, but sometimes you do, this is a very good lure. And I always found this a good lure in stormy weather. I don't know why. Rough seas, this seems to excel, as does this lure here, which is a Maxima Predator. Does exactly the same thing, dives to about 2.5 meters. Another really, really good lure that, you know, will catch fish. Got a Spro lure here, another one, same sort of length, 12 centimeters, but weighs 23 grams, so you can cast it really well. Once again, dives a bit deeper. With the colours on these lures, I've never been that fussed, to be honest. All of them work. They're all sort of slightly different colours. I like the bright day, bright lure, dark day, dark lure. That seems to make sense to me. Fish like to camouflage themselves and not stick out too much. So I tend to stick with that as a rule, but whether that actually makes any difference, I don't know. But colour is not, well, it's a secondary thing for me, really. It's, as I say, the length to the weight, and they're all right to cast, and as long as they wobble, they will catch you fish. Okay, next up is just this. There we go. It's a little rubber sort of crayfish, mini lobster thing. Savage Gear do a weedless version of this, which I had and I managed to lose. So this is just a little cheap thing. Costs, I don't know how much it cost. Not very much, €1. You stick the lead in the back, comes out here. And the important thing with this is you really have to know the ground you're fishing. Always worth exploring at high tide, and where these seem to fish really well is on little sandy channels in between rocks. So if you've got a mark like that, then give these a go. These are really good, I think, if you're having a day where not a lot's happening and you're sick of just casting out and reeling. Try one of these, because the way to fish these is you cast them out, you let them sink, and you literally twitch them along the bottom, pulse them, do it again. So it's like, it's not the repetitive just reeling, it's something a bit different. And the important thing with these is make sure this weight, when it's on the bottom, test it at home in the sink or something, has your lure like that. If you look at crayfish or lobsters, when they're in defensive mode, they bend their body up like that. So it shouldn't be like that, and it shouldn't be flat. It should be sort of halfway in between. So you need to make sure you've got the right weight for the lure. And these are great, and you get some really weird bites on these. Sometimes they're really, really soft, like, you know, where you think, oh, maybe a bit of weeds hit the line like that. And sometimes they just pull the rod tip straight over. But I like them because I've got a mark where these are ideal for fishing, and they just break the day up. They're something different to use. So yeah, give them a go. And there's lots of variations on them. I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be this. It doesn't even have to look like this. You know, you can just, there's loads of stuff you can get now. Even imitation ragworm and stuff like that that move in the water. All worth a go, I would say. And now we come on to the things that I've caught more bass on, more sea trout on than anything else in probably the last 5 years. The first one's this. It's a little sand eel imitation. It's, I think, about 9 centimetres long, and I have no idea why it's better than other sand eel imitations. And the only thing I can think of is quite a bit thinner.